Hi, everybody. Welcome back, or welcome for the first time to the Read Write Mike podcast. I can't believe we are on season 2 of the podcast, where mostly I've been covering vocabulary acquisition and specifically the free WordLove curriculum, units, and materials that I provided. This season will probably focus primarily on the newest offering, which is character vocabulary. Character vocabulary, well, that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to tell a little bit about its origin. I'm going to talk a little bit about what it is. I'm going to talk about why, and then there'll be some other bonus material for subscribers. Okay, so let's get started. What is word love, character vocabulary, and where did it come from? Let me tell that story. I think it was this past winter, the winter of 2021-22. I was thinking with the Word Love team, especially with Kimberly Fox, who makes our beautiful charts and art, thinking about next directions of possibilities we could go to, because there had been such a warm and exciting welcome to the Word Love materials that go along with reading units of study so far. And teachers all over had been loving it. Kids had been loving it. We'd really been getting a lot of positive feedback. And then there are other colleagues who'd always be saying, well, Mike, what about K2 and what about 6-8? And so I was thinking, well, maybe there's some other directions that we could take word love, or maybe there's some other directions we could just take this work that we've been doing. That teachers are clamoring for a lot of different things, not just vocabulary. So I sent out a survey to people who have subscribed to the newsletter, and of maybe it was about 5 or 6 items on the survey. And overwhelmingly, the number one vote getting item on that survey was character vocabulary. People wanted character vocabulary. So I said to Kim, I said, let's do this. And she was on board, and we started making those plans. We started getting it ready, getting a pilot ready, sending out the news to people who wanted to pilot it. I think we had something about 150 individuals, and many were representatives of entire grades and schools, who said, yes, we want to pilot it. I think of those, we had about 90 people who joined the pilot. And so we piloted, especially the K2 version this spring, and 3-5, and maybe it'll even be 6-8. I don't know. But let me tell you a little bit more about what it is, so you can decide whether it's something that you think it's for you. So word love character vocabulary is a curriculum that's free, and with free materials like charts, that helps kids acquire character vocabulary, that is, words to describe characters. One of the ways we use to introduce the words is we use fairy tales and folk tales from around the world, which are brief to read and anyone can access them. What we do with students is we apply a lot of methods that are good for young kids to learn vocabulary, which is to use the word, to talk out the word, to act out the word. And the goal is that this is something that you can teach about 5 to 10 minutes a day, outside of anything else that you might do, and across the year. There's going to be about 4 or 5 parts to it, and each part will be about, I would say, probably about a week and a half of instruction. They can be taught all together sequentially, or they can be taught spread out across the year. And each unit will have about 15 to 20 character vocabulary words, K-8. Yes, that might be the new news today, is thinking about moving into 6-8 as well, but there'll certainly be K-5, K-6. And that's essentially what it is. So we're really excited to introduce to the world word love character vocabulary. What I want to do now is I want to talk a little bit about, well, why? Other than teachers were clamoring for it, that everybody said we wanted it, what are some other reasons why we created word love character vocabulary? And one of the big reasons why is that cognitive science has been letting us know for the past 30 years now that content is important, and vocabulary falls under content, things to know, things to have in your long-term memory. And the paradox of learning content is the more you know, the more you can learn. And if you know a lot of words, if you know a lot of ways to describe characters, it's only going to help your reading comprehension. So that's one reason. And I bet you've seen this in your classroom before. I don't know if you've ever printed out a list of character traits and you could ask kids, like, how many of these words do you know? Even if they're organized by shades. One of the things that you'll sometimes see with kids when they use those character trait worksheets is either they do know the words on the list, in which case they don't need the worksheet, or probably more common, they don't yet know the words on the list, and they and then worksheet's not as helpful. And so what word love character vocabulary is going to do is it's going to help kids know like a good number of words on those lists so that they can acquire even more vocabulary as they do other things like reading. You can require way more vocabulary just by reading. But we're going to teach a few of the character vocabulary very deeply. And so, how do we teach the word love character vocabulary? Well, based on all the reading and research and experience that I've done, I think that the best method, the best methodology, the best pedagogy around teaching individual vocabulary words, which is what word love primarily does right now, is Beck, McKeown, and Kuchen's Bringing Words to Life work, where it's often called robust vocabulary instruction. I use a version of that because I think theirs is the best of all of the different practitioners, researchers, educators, and teachers who say, here's ways you can teach individual words. I think Beck and her colleagues, they have the best method. And the reason I say that is because they think intentionally about how kids will learn the word deeply, because that's the point of learning individual words is you want to learn the words deeply. And so they they incorporate games where kids first learn the words at a very more shallow level, and then the games go increasingly more tricky and difficult, and frankly more fun. But we start with the easier games so that kids can get a grasp of them. Games where they initially will identify words, or they'll just sort of connect words to examples that you provide. And then eventually kids will generate their own ways in which the word exists in the world. And then they can relate different words together. And that's sort of the goal. We also, where do we get the words? Well, we get the words from a nice list by a teacher, an educator named Patrick Mannion, who came up with a K-8, really a K through 12 character vocabulary word list. And he came up with this list. He said, one of the things that can be helpful if you're working on character vocabulary to help kids reading comprehension is if it's sort of systematic across grades. Like, here are the batches of words that you can cover each grade level, so you're not stepping on each other's toes. And so since he is an individual who has already chosen the words, that is a huge step. Let me tell you, as somebody who's chosen words for vocabulary lists before, for word love for reading units of study, it's no easy task. So I'm very grateful that Patrick Mannion has already made this list that we can draw from as a recommendation. So those are many of the whys. Not only are teachers clamoring for it, not only is it going to help kids with their reading comprehension, but also the methods are going to be very research-based by vocabulary experts. If you'd like to get some bonus content, you can subscribe by clicking on some of the links below. For instance, if you want to hear about what some of the pilot teachers and what some of the kids in the pilots have said so far about word love, character vocabulary, subscribe below. Your subscriptions help keep this curriculum free. Right now, we operate as a nonprofit, so anything that you can do to support us will be helpful, and it'll give you some bonus content on the podcast. In addition to, you'll get early access to any material. So for today, you can get early access to the pilot units that have been made so far and the pilot materials. So subscribe today, and I thank you for your support.